So first of all, Team Singularity was founded in 2016. So we've been running for about 4 years now. We would still consider ourselves as a startup in the industry, since it is a major industry and it's growing rapidly day for day, month for month, year for year. And I've been in this space for 5 years, but it feels like I've already spent a lifetime here. Team Singularity we try to do things different. Like we entered esports with the vision that we could bring values from certain experiences in our past and also from other industries and tie them all together in this wonderful space of gaming and esports. When we're talking about the future, digital natives is one of the most commonly used phrases for the youth and for the aspiring generation that are growing up right now. We're here to be part of the future, and there is no doubt that esports and gaming has a very bright and very positioned future inside if we're talking tournaments, if we're talking the whole way of seeing sports. Because to me and to a lot of other people, esports is just an extension of sport. But to understand the space properly, you need to understand how many variables are going into this mix to create this atmosphere and this ecosystem. And you should also know that esports is still in its maturing, growing stage. So there are always a lot of formats and changes and structure changes because organizers and everyone behind the scene clearly realize certain difficulties and problems that have maybe not been directed and talked to for starters, but the scene is in constant development. And that's what I'm trying to explain here. In Team Singularity, we try to embrace the constant change in the market, but it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of hands. In Team Singularity, we are around 140 people in total. We have around half of these people that are on an actual salary. The rest is either talent players or management trying to get their way into the ecosystem and create their own jobs. In Team Singularity, we have a very global mindset. We are a 360 degrees esports platform. Of course, our primary goal is to have an esports organization that is branching out into various game titles. But with that being said, then in an esports company, you need so much more. You're part media company, part content company, and part esports is how I view it. In Team Singularity, we grew everything from the grassroots. The grassroots of esports 4-5 years ago is something completely different from what it is today. Literally 5 years ago, always ended up, like you always say, all roads lead to Rome. But basically, in esports, everything led to a very few top people that is still having a great impact on the industry overall, but a lot more people in these important positions have come to the stage ever since. In Team Singularity, we try to take the possibilities in the market and make it a win-win-win situation all the way around the table. Because there's a lot of, I would say, in an immature market, you have to operate with precaution great agileness. But in the end, it all comes down to your experiences and understanding of the market. Because there are few patterns that you start to recognize when you've been in this space for, I would say, 3-4 years. But there's a lot of things along these lines that are, you can read yourself to how to do esports. And when I started into esports, I went in blindfolded, got my way out to the middle of the ocean, and then I started to wait for the wave to come crashing in over the land. And under the way, I learned to surf this wave and realized that you have to find your place on the wave and in the market to be able to do what you do best. In Team Singularity, we will never be the organization that will just pay for everything. As much as we want to go tier 1, our journey came from the grassroots, and our best understanding is tier 2, and how to take a talent, spotlight it, framework it, motivate it, and then send it up the elevator to the tier 1 teams. So in Singularity, we have always been able to make a big impact for a very small budget. And I'll be showing you more of this later in this presentation. In Team Singularity, we of course have an established brand and an agile organization, as I've already been describing previously. We have a high impact on social media, and our primary focus is the commercialization of the market. Sorry for the bad English there, but I'm just a Danish guy trying to make it. Going forward, Team Singularity, and one of the prime reasons why we have been able to make a mark in this industry so far and to establish our brand, even though we haven't been able to just pay our way through the market and through the fans. We have been, from our understanding of the grassroots, we quickly learned that if we were to make a business model in this space that weren't seen before, then we had to be top of class when it comes to talent scouting and recruiting. In Team Singularity, we have over the last 3 years had around 500 players in total. Out of these 500 players, around above 50 of them has been transferred with a buyout sum. We have been selling players in 9 games or game titles in total. Of course, certain game titles are more continuously in terms of transfers and sales, especially CSGO, Rainbow Six, and those are 2 of the titles where we've been able to work with a lot of top tier organizations and helped our players take the elevator to the big stage. If we're moving forward, then to kind of give you an aspect into the journey we've been on in Team Singularity and where it started, then back in 2016, we had our eye on CSGO and Denmark, of course, because as many have come to know ever since, then we're pretty good at CSGO here in Denmark. And therefore, our natural engagement and start into the world of esports was in the game title of CSGO. Exactly 1 year later, we made our first mark. In 2017, our CSGO team made one of the biggest headlines as underdogs in CSGO history and made a jump of more than 120 places on the official ranking list and entered the top 20 in the world just by winning one tournament. And if you are the underdog in esport, then if you win the right tournament, it can be the turning point for you. And it can be the difference between making it to the other side of the goal line or to be stuck in front of the goal. When we made the jump in CSGO, we quickly learned that it's not very interesting to only be telling good stories or bad stories in one gaming title, because if it goes bad, then you have to tell a good story somewhere else, so that you don't put the pressure on the players and you don't necessarily put the pressure on the management. So in 2017, shortly after we won Copenhagen Games, we expanded into League of Legends and Dota 2, two of the biggest gaming titles out there, and we had an incredible start. At Copenhagen Games and just prior to the event, we also entered Overwatch, and actually we also won the Overwatch tournament at Copenhagen Games that year. 1 year after, we started really rapidly growing. We still didn't have all the necessarily understanding of all the different gaming titles and markets, but we were still in a premature state for many of these gaming titles. So we have spent countless hours understanding both mobile gaming and console gaming already back in 2017 and 2018, because we had a lot of dialogue, and that's one of the key components in esports. It's dialogue and communication. And I would estimate that only 50% of all the conversations I've had over the last 5 years has been something that has been able to go into the Singularity business model. But the other 50% have given me the understanding, the experience, and the tools to be able to navigate in a market that is one big chaos. But in this chaos, there is brightness as well. And there are friendships, there are emotions, I can't describe it better than saying it's a sport. Because I've been a soccer player ever since I was very, very young and up till I was around 20, when certain other priorities started to take over. And I think all the emotions, all the passion you find in sports is something you will also find in esports. Because the mentality of wanting to win and to be part of something bigger is just what you're going to find in esports. And in 2018, we made a big jump in terms of both budgets and investments. And back then, 1 year later from our triumph at Copenhagen Games, we actually won it again. But this time, not with our male team, this time with our number one global female team that solidified themselves as the top one team in the world. And that helped us gain the interest from certain sponsors and other things we could start to monetize in the pipeline of all the different potential revenue streams you find in esports. So from 2018 to 2019, we took a big leap, and we were, as the photo you can see from 2019, we started being a lot of people. So we in 2019 was also the first time we started to have permanent facilities. We basically rented out a space, which is actually the one I'm standing in right now. with our sister company or brother company, Hydra Esport, which is more of an esports or gaming club where you can come just as you can go to soccer practice, then you can go to esport practice here on different levels. So we found a natural space for us to be able to be in contact with all the different talents and understand the development all the way from some of these 8 to 9-year-old kids I'm seeing out here with their parents coming to be taught Fortnite on level 4 or something like that. And it's so heartwarming to see the experience these youngsters have. I think the best example I can give of this was when I saw an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old not knowing each other from before, or actually they did know each other from before, but we didn't know that in advance. And then they were placed together playing Fortnite for 2 hours. And 2 hours after, this 11-year-old and 14-year-old, they just clicked and they became the best friends, or still are. But the fun part came when the mother of the 11-year-old came and said, just so you guys know, you have just helped Christian, the name of the youngster, more than we could ever thank you for. You have united him with his bully. You have not just addressed it, but you have actually changed the opinion here. And it doesn't look like his bully will keep being his bully. And that's some of the heartwarming things you'll experience if you ever enter esports. You make a huge difference to some of these people that you're helping and exploring the possibilities of the online space with. With that aside, then just to finish this slide, 2009, the difference from 2019 to 2020 haven't been as much as we wanted because of COVID. Of course, COVID have kind of, I guess, put a lot of plans for a lot of different companies in everyone in the world is affected by this. I think esports are doing better than most industries are in this COVID, but of course, it has limited us in certain expansion thoughts, and therefore, I'd say my 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 experience tells me that all the goals and ambitions we have had for 2020 will be even better at executing them in 2021, just because we've had that much more time to prepare it. But heading forward, to kind of explain, if you haven't already figured out, then Team Singularity, our vision is not to win all tournaments out there. We know that we're not going to do that. Our mission is to become the world's leading talent factory or incubator. We want to work with talents that has the skills, that has the motivation, that has the mindset, but maybe needs the structure, the discipline, the marginals to be able to be one of the top star players in the world. And it can go very fast in esports. It's not necessarily because talents are, someone you spot at a very young age. Talents in esports can be leaderboard grinders that you didn't even know, and over the course of half a year, they can go from being unknown to being one of the most well-known players in the industry. Furthermore, then to be the leading talent incubator in the world, then we do know that it all starts in the grassroots. And that's why we're so happy we have our brother company Hydra Esport, which is running an ordinary sports model of how you can practice and learn esports. So you come here, you have a membership, a paid membership. You come here once a week, play 2 hours, or you do it online. But those are certain things that gives us the opportunity to connect with the players and to help shape them and give them healthy habits. To kind of give an aspect into what our markets is in Team Singularity. Then as you can see here, then it's very, very small parts of the Middle East that that Team Singularity has been in contact with so far. And one of the reasons for that is that some of the tournament organizers in certain game titles haven't. It's all about where do you find the player base. And the Middle Eastern market is growing so rapidly at the moment, but it's where maybe the Danish market was 5 years ago, maybe 6 years even. So it's growing slowly but surely. And then I'm sure that the markets in Middle East, in Saudi region, will be able to make a very big impact very quickly. And the reason for that is because I can see that esports is a global phenomenon. I can see esports is a global phenomenon that will take over every aspects of the world. And as I see it, I do believe that especially gaming titles like FIFA and especially gaming titles like Fortnite are doing a lot in the region to try and structure the youth and give them healthy habits in terms of certain tournament times and make an ecosystem that makes sense for both organizations, investors, sponsors, players, and fans. If I go to the numbers, then Team Singularity, together with all our players and general assets, we have around a reach of around 9 million fans. And that's just if we're counting. If we're looking at the reach numbers, it's something completely different. For people that is not currently a part of the esports and gaming space, it can be hard to understand how you can get so big numbers in terms of reach and campaigns and an audience in general. But it's only because that the old thought is that this world is not as connected as it is. When you get on the inside of esports and gaming, you start to see how connected the online community and everyday people are. And it's not just Facebook. It's not just like Twitter and Instagram. Here I'm talking about general content constantly, 24/7, 365 days a year. Esports never sleeps, which is why it's very important to remember that you have to live a life where you remember to sleep and eat, because esports, if it will try, not necessarily succeed, but it will try to do everything it can to consume everything in your life when you enter it. Because esports need a lot of dedication. Esports need a lot of time if you want to make it here. At least if you want to make it big. If you're just here because you're passionate, if you like gaming, there is room for everyone in esports. Doesn't matter if you're tall or short, doesn't matter if you're black or white. In esports, we see room for every people and all kinds of fans, and that is one of the reasons that I'm still here. It's because I can see that this is making a difference, not just for me, and not just for my players, but for everyone that is watching what we're doing. Swot business overview. I guess a lot of people that are watching this keynote right now have been in contact with this SWOT analysis. I wanted to take this with me, so of course you can read it while I'm speaking. But as you see here, is just how it is for Team Singularity. And of course, some of the things are more, I would say, things that have happened because we have done certain actions or set a business plan in that matter. Like, of course, if we had set another structure where we were out finding our funding before necessarily showing the results, then it would be another story and another SWOT model you would be looking. But just to kind of give some overviews here. So in terms of our weaknesses, for example, then you see like funding, cash flow, general things that is very, very important, but is also cash heavy. Certain of these things in terms of investment, like in terms of growing the revenue streams, sometimes you can't just target all revenue streams because certain revenue streams take an investment just to start. But our strengths are so much bigger than our weaknesses in Team Singularity. The same with our opportunities contra our threats. But our strength in Team Singularity is our vision and our capability of executing. Because in Team Singularity, we have learned one thing, and that is that it's a complete waste of time and time drain if we don't execute on the things that we're talking about. So in Team Singularity, we have used a lot of time internally to find the most effective processes for making it work for everyone. COVID has both been, I would say, it's been a huge threat to us and our existence because it targeted certain of our sponsors, partners, which, you know, if you give them problems, they'll come with their problems to you. And in terms of finances for this year, it's been impossible to make a budget and keep it this year because of the constant changes. And I would say that the difficulty of not being able to plan accordingly is very hard in esports. But again, esports is one of the markets that have done well in this COVID situation and keeps growing. Streaming keeps growing as well. And it's only because, of course, everything could be converted to be online. I think esports has been fighting the last 5 years to get everything away from just being something online and into the big stages, into your television, into your everyday life, that it was not just online. But the problem is then you stand in a COVID situation and then everything has to go back to online. But I would say I'm praising all the tournament organizers that were very quick to adapt. And I think esports in general just had a downtime of like mid-March to mid-April. And then everything started picking up again in the same pace as it was before. To kind of give you guys a comparison to, if you would see Forbes, then Cloud9, it is the highest valued esports company out there currently, or esports organization, just to be safe. Here you see a pretty clear comparison Of course, some of these details are not details that we have been like in terms of audience and fans. I have no idea how big audience and or fan level we see Cloud9 have, but I would estimate probably around 400 million, somewhere around that. But if you go into like certain things, like of course Cloud9, this is a couple of months old, this comparison. So of course there is a constant agileness of number of games that both of these clubs are active in. But if you kind of go down the list, then you can see that the major difference here is the difference in terms of franchise spots and employees. Because as you can see in Team Singularity, we basically only have one person that is full time. And I'm saying that from in terms of a financial aspect and in terms of a salary, because in Team Singularity, I am fortunate enough to have developed a management team of around 20 people that I owe everything in my life, because they help me make my dreams come true and are together with me on this journey through thick and thin. But the good part is we're having a lot of fun and we're having a good time while doing it. But the big difference here is the value of volunteer work. Because are you coming from the grassroots, you will have to rely on certain volunteer work. Are you coming from a standpoint where you're the most or the highest valued esports organization out there, you have to pay for everything and all the way through. And you probably also have to pay maybe 4 or 5 times as much as I would for the same player, just because of your position in the market. Going forward in Team Singularity, then we have kind of embraced what we're good at and identified it. And then we have started to team up with regular sports clubs, because regular sports clubs, they have a performance system, they have a physical location, they have a media team, they have a lot of possibilities that can be commercialized in esports very quickly. Starting from next year, you'll be able to see Singularity Wolfport in Rocket League. To say this is a breaking news, so it's not something that is shared anywhere before this presentation was made today. But the short headlines here is we're making a joint venture with Wolfport, which is known to be a talent incubator in Germany as well. And we have so many things on the drawing board together with them that I can't even wait to make the official announcement here. Going more nationally, then in Denmark, we have a soccer league called eSuperliga in FIFA, which is run on national television. And other than run on national television, then of course it's also streamed. We have partnered with the club Randers FC to be part, to represent them in eSuperliga, since it's all the Danish like soccer clubs or football clubs that are primary in this league. So you can just Team Singularity, unfortunately, can't just get a spot. But we have made a partnership, and the reason we made this partnership was also to be able to convert everyone that is a digital native into being potentially a sports jock, because we want to connect the best of both worlds. And sports and esports for me is the same. It's the same kind of dedication and mindset I experience from both sides. The only difference is where you find limitations in our physical world in terms of being able to perform at the top of your level in a physical sport, you don't necessarily have that limit in esports. Esports enables everyone, whether you have a small handicap or whether you're a big guy or these parts of it. There are so many aspects into esports, and this presentation is just some of them. And I hope that my journey can inspire someone else out there to take their journey and leap of faith into esports, because I promise you'll not regret it. Esports is and will be something for the future, and we're only just seeing the top of the iceberg. And with that being said, I'll end my presentation here, and feel free to to send any questions, or for that matter, feel free to take my contact information and reach out yourself if you have anything specific that you want to ask, or if you would like to have this presentation sent or see some of our or my other presentations, then I'd be happy to share it with you. Just feel free to reach out to me on mail, phone, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You'll find me everywhere. And thank you so much for thank you so much for your time here, and I hope you enjoyed it. Checking the chat resume, it doesn't look like I have any questions right now, so feel free to feel free to write in. I can see I got a question here in the matter of what are your thoughts around 2021 and expectations with this COVID situation. It's really hard to predict the market right now. I think esport will continue in the format that we've seen the last half year, all the way through 2021. I don't really think it will be safe to make these World Cup tournaments in esports before the whole world is cleared. And I guess the world won't be cleared before we have a vaccine or that this virus is eliminated. Keep texting if you have any questions. I guess if we don't have any more questions coming in, then I'll let the admin make the decision when we'll stop, but I'll stay around. Oh, I can see I just got a question in terms of like investment. In terms of investing into esports, whether you're sitting on one or the other side of the table, I give you the advice that don't go into something you don't understand or believe in. rely on the trust and your skills in terms of human skills. If the stomach feeling is correct about the person that is trying to get you on board in their project, you should go with your stomach feeling. But esports will always be more time consuming than you would first realize, mostly because you will, if you invest in it, I can almost guarantee that over maybe the course of 2 or 3 years, you'll start realizing that watching esport over regular sport, and why the reason for that is happening, especially to the youth and the new generation, because there is a constant expectation of something that is going to happen. It can be, 2-minute rounds or something like that, like in Counter-Strike or 155, where you know that within this window of 2 minutes, there's going to be a goal, basically, you can say, if you take it to sports. And that little excitement that you get while watching esports can be hard to find when you go back to traditional sports and start watching. I'm not gonna affect anyone, but at least I can say from my own side of the table, I think I was watching all football and all soccer leagues in general previously, and now I'm basically down to European Cup, World Championship, Champions League, and some of the derbies in Premier League or Series A. Looks like that was the last of the questions that I have received. So unless you wonderful people have anything else to ask, then I'd kindly appreciate all your time here, and I hope you learned something new. And if you have any question in any esports array, feel free to reach out, as I already said. But thank you for this time, and hopefully I'll be able to speak to you again next year on a better subject, on a new subject, on the future of the future.